Okay, my name is Pierre Voncken, and I am the proud father of 3 daughters, Vanessa, Sofie, and Sarah. I'm here today to talk to you about the journey we have been through with our daughter Sofie, born in March 2009. She had a severe brain hemorrhage 4 days after she was born. Doctors were very afraid that she might die, because the excess brain fluid was not drained the normal way. There was a blood clot blocking it. So they put in an external drain. Afterwards, they put in a fixed drain in the brain, which was to make sure that the excess brain fluid would flow down to the stomach. Okay, they immediately warned us, okay, we did that, we saved your daughter, and that drain should be okay for the rest of her life, but there is a very high risk she will develop some form of epilepsy. Which form will be developed, we cannot be sure. And we didn't see any signs of epilepsy for the first 2.5 years, but then small signs were coming, like she was throwing up all of a sudden, or she was not paying attention. We went back to the hospital, and indeed, during an EEG, they found some epileptic activity around the drain. We were sent to another hospital here in Leuven, which is much more specialized in children's epilepsy. And they immediately stated, okay, she has to stay here for 24 hours, so we can monitor her for 24 hours and see what kind of epilepsy it really is, because there are many forms which I knew nothing about, but okay. And then came the verdict 2 days after. She developed a type called CSWS, which stands for continuous spike waves during slow sleep, which means that you look at your child, and she's fast asleep, really at ease, slowly sleeping, but all the time there is epileptic activity in the brain. All the time. 100% of the time when this child is sleeping, you have epileptic activity. Strange thing with Sofie was that she also had this activity during the day. 85% of the time when she was awake, she had epilepsy. Not visible. You couldn't see anything on the outside. You couldn't see anything on the outside, but the brain was under constant attack of this epilepsy. Doctors warned us it will be a search for the right medication. So they gave us, at first, they gave us a real low dose. Okay, that helped for about a year. And then came the first major crisis in September 2014, when she had a really severe seizure, which caused more extra brain damage. And I started feeling that, okay, they're going to change the medication, that they're going to up the dose or make another cocktail or whatever. And indeed, they proposed a second and a third medication. Okay, then came October 2014, again, a major seizure, went back to the hospital, stayed there for 3 weeks. She was 7 days at intensive care, I think. Doctors really feared for her life, because she was under constant attack. It would not stop. And, okay, a 4th medication was added. In December, a 5th medication was added, which was leading to a child being asleep for 22 hours a day, which is absolutely, you look at your child and she's just laying there on her bed or in the sofa or whatever. She could not stay awake because of too much medication. And I started feeling, this will come to an end. Someday soon she will have a major seizure and she will not survive. And they have no medication to save her, to make her better. So I went to my laptop and I typed in alternative cures for epilepsy. Then all of a sudden I saw cannabis for epilepsy. I thought they have gone really crazy, you know, giving drugs to children. That's crazy. But then I started searching more, got in touch via Facebook with lots of parents who indeed gave their children cannabis as a medication. So slowly I was convinced that, okay, maybe if doctors have no more options left for my girl, then maybe I will start with this cannabis. So I got a hold of it via friends because I knew nothing about it. I got a hold of a bottle of cannabis oil. That was in January 2016. And I proposed to the doctors, okay, I have this cannabis oil at our house. Our child is in the hospital. I will bring it, we will give it to her, and you monitor our child while she's under surveillance in the hospital. But they wouldn't do it because it's illegal in Belgium, you know. They rather have your child dying than, you know, save her life. But, okay. They have one more option, which was a very special diet based on very high fat intake and very low on carbon, on hydrates and everything, low sugar. I said, okay, we're going to try it. If it doesn't work, do you have any other options? No, we don't. Okay, if that diet doesn't work, then we will give her cannabis at home. So we were May 2015, and she was really suffering from this diet, really suffering, and her condition was really bad. And all of a sudden, doctors came to us and said, okay, we have to call in a priest because your child is dying. And then I said, she will not die. We will take her home, we will give her this cannabis oil, and that will save her life. I was so convinced of that. I was scared as well, you know, because... But I was convinced it would save her life. We came home, gave her one drop, and believe it or not, 10 minutes later, she was jumping on the trampoline. And I said to my wife, we were crying so much. It was so, you know... And she got better and better, and we were still giving her those 5 medications, but we were able to bring him down to 4, bring him down to 3, bring him down to 2, and then only 1 medication, and all the time the cannabis. Not much, she only took 4 drops a day, which is not much, but it helped her. No more seizures. No more rushing to the hospitals. For 22 months, she had not been in the hospital. Before, we were rushing to the hospital every 2 or 3 weeks, sometimes 2 times a week. We would take her home and then get home and then back again, you know, because you can't handle this child when she's seizing so much. So, but with cannabis, yeah, 22 months, no rush to the hospital, no rush whatsoever. Doctors at first were very reluctant to admit that our daughter was better. They were very reluctant. But then all of a sudden, the doors, you know, they closed the doors, put down the telephone, put out the computer, and said to me, because I was alone at that time, okay, we see now that your girl is better. We see it on the EEG pattern of the brain waves, that the spikes are not so high anymore, and in between attacks, the spikes are also more leveled than before. Before it was like this. Now it's almost level. So that's an improvement. I said, that's a huge improvement. You know, she functions, she can go to school. Okay, it's a special school because her brain damage will not go away, not even with cannabis, it will not go away. The brain damage, it's done. She's almost non-verbal. Sometimes she talks a few words, like daddy or mommy, or she calls to her sister Sasa, which is Sarah. And then in the month of March this year, her condition got a bit worse. So we went back to the hospital and decided, okay, we're going to stop the cannabis and we're going to stop the medication she's taking for now. We're going to stop all that. And then we will see what happens within 2 or 3 days and give her they wanted to give her Depakine and they wanted to give her Keppra at the same time. And that helped. That, I must say, that really helped. She got better and better and better, but still very sleepy, very drowsy, not so much aware of the environment. And then the doctor said to me, oh, again, behind closed doors, off the record, he said to me, you got to give her cannabis. So she will be more awake, so she will be more active, so she will be more, you know, more quality in her day-to-day life. So we did that. And yes, I must say, she is really a very active child at the moment. She walks, she runs, she plays with her dolls. Sometimes she playing pattern is not so well developed, but she plays sometimes. And she talks more. She hadn't spoken a word in about 3 or 4 months, I think. But she said daddy again, which was the first time this year, so I'm very happy with that. And last year she didn't, not one single time she said daddy. Mommy she says a lot, but daddy, that's something else. And she can go back to school now. She eats really well, she sleeps really well. Okay, sometimes we still see small seizures, but it's not heavy. It's like 1 second, 2 seconds, and then she gets over it, you know. And most of the time when she's tired, then you see some more seizures. And then you know, okay, it's time to go to bed, time to sleep. And I can say, and I will say, and I'm not afraid to say it, but if it wasn't for cannabis, our Sofie would not be alive anymore. I'm convinced of that. I am really convinced of that. It saved her life. So I can tell you now again, I am the proud father of 3 daughters, not 2.